Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you joining the third webinar for the fourth edition of the National Startup Awards on Reimagining Innovation, Building Impactful and Robust Business Models. My name is Radhika Kohli, and I work at Startup India, and I'm pleased to be your host for today's session. I'm excited and honored to be here with you all today. So, as we know, entrepreneurship is a crucial driver of innovation and economic transformation in the country. With this view in mind, Startup India has launched the fourth edition of the National Startup Awards to recognize and reward outstanding startups that have demonstrated exceptional capabilities to build, innovate, scalable, and impactful business solutions. This year, we have awards spanning across 20 categories, such as women led innovation, impact in rural areas, social innovation in healthcare, education, livelihood, and much more. The winners will receive a cash prize of INR 10 lakhs across each categories, and the winners and finalists will receive exhaustive handholding support in the form of government connects, investor connects, market access, etc. We have a fantastic lineup of industry experts and notable startups among us today who will share their insights, journeys, and experiences for you all. But before we begin the conversation, let us take you through the walkthrough video of National Startup Awards 2023. I'm very excited to introduce to you a woman that really needs no introduction, at least for the entrepreneurial ecosystem of the country. Naiyya Saggi is the co-founder Glamm Group, South Asia's largest content to commerce conglomerate and founder of Baby Chakra, India's most trusted parenting platform. In 2015, Naiyya founded Baby Chakra with the vision of making parenting easier and accessible to all. She's a Harvard Business graduate where she was a Fulbright and Tata scholar. She's always been a tech enthusiast, and she was also a management consultant before this. She's worked extensively in scaling healthcare and education ventures, and she's also a qualified lawyer. She is one of India's top voices in entrepreneurship and in tech. She's been profiled on Business World's Youngest Entrepreneurship Awards, ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow, CNBC Young Turds, and honestly, the list could go on. Welcome to the webinar, Naiyya. Thank you so much for joining us on a Tuesday evening, especially. I hope Naiyya is audible to
Wait,
everyone.
I think this is
Yes,
better. Is it better? No, it's
yes,
absolutely
yes.
a pleasure to be part of this. I'm a big fan and a big believer in sort of entrepreneurship really catalyzing this nation. So very happy to be a part of this initiative. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to hear you speak, and I feel very privileged to be here today on the same platform as you. So, if you're ready, should we begin with the questions?
Sure, let's go for it.
Great. So, Naiyya, as a business school graduate from Harvard and as a former management consultant, how have your previous educational or professional experiences or skills helped you build a robust business model for your startup? Basically, what are some key principles you follow while building these businesses? Experience versus skills, what has helped you more personally?
I'm going to offer something a little bit counterintuitive and something a little bit more maybe aligned to what you were thinking when you framed this question. So I think the counterintuitive thinking is that, and it's not actually as counterintuitive, but I think the real thinking is that, while we talk about education and maybe in the generation I'm part of today, it still plays an extremely important role in shaping our careers and shaping our thoughts out and shaping the way we lead our professional lives out. I mean, the bet is that in the future it will, like structured education the way we know it will not really be what really makes us take on the bets or take the risks or become entrepreneurs, right? I think it's going to be more sort of learning by doing. That'll teach us how to build businesses, and I think that is the reality also even today of entrepreneurship. That said, two things that stood out and have stood out for me in my time at McKinsey and HBS both is one, I think the understanding that you could actually get into any situation as long as you have a robust problem solving toolkit, as long as you're able to break down a very seemingly complex problem into very simple structures and communicate each of the ingredients of the problem statement effectively to your team. Every problem is surmountable, right? So I think that's the first piece, like really the problem solving framework and really understand the components of the problem and realizing that not every component needs to be solved, right? For the overall problem to be solved, right? You can choose like maybe two out of the 10 components, solve for those two, and your problem gets solved, right? That's one, right? The second, I think, is that the understanding, and it's not a framework, but just a clear understanding, no one really knows the answer, right? So you're figuring it out as you build along. And I think everybody has a different way of learning. So, because no one knows the answer, you have to see what kind of, how do you learn best? How do you solve and how do you figure out answers best? For me, that came from a lot of conversations with fellow founders, peers, right? And I think that's I think also been a very valuable toolkit I've picked up, which is to like put myself forward, not be shy, be willing to learn from peers and ask the right questions. I think that's a second toolkit I found. So yeah, so these two toolkits, problem solving and you're really using peers and asking the right questions of them to learn. But overall, I think the future forward is going to be very different for the generations to come. So I don't think structured learning is going to teach them this, or an educational institution is going to teach them this. I think they'll learn that on the ground.
You very rightly said that learning by doing is something that we need to pick on, and especially the upcoming generation, I think really believes in that. Uh, all points well noted. So, moving on, I think as a mentor at Facebook's She Leads Tech program, as cliche as it may sound, but how do you see women shaping the tech industry in the future? We're still very less in percentage there. What role do you think women can play in building innovative models and driving growth in the industry?
So I've said this before, I'll say this again. I think we have to move from women being just consumers of tech to being creators of tech. And the reason that's important is because it's actually a nation building imperative today, right? If you're looking at, India moving to becoming like a 5.5, $6 trillion, $1 trillion economy in the next sort of almost election cycle, if you will, in the next 4 or 5 years, you need to have a lot more scenarios where and digital is the future. I think we all kind of arguably all agree on this, on that, right? You're looking at where is the next sort of pool of participation going to come from, and that's going to come from women, right? But for women to participate in the economy, they need to be financially independent, or have financial wherewithal to participate in the economy. They also need products and solutions, and digital first product solutions that cater to their needs, right? And then therefore, to like cut the whole long story short, therefore you need more women in tech, right? Because otherwise the nation doesn't move forward. So I think areas where first of all, so it's a nation building imperative to have more women building technology companies, building digital first solutions, because that spurs the whole economy along. I think the second piece is, we're talking about generative AI, we're talking about, the evolution of chat GPT and sort of that taking on the way that shapes the narrative of all what we learn and we search for and the way we do business, right? Therefore, it's even more important that women are part of creating and being part of AI ventures and startups today, because the way these models are formed are based off data banks which are largely still sort of very male dominated in their conversations, right, and in the information that's shared there. So I think if you want to shape the future of digital, of the internet, you need to have more, I think, women led almost products, but also solutions that are actually feeding into the next wave of technology, right? I think it's super important to shape the narrative, because otherwise, if you're not part of the dialogue, you're not part of the future.
I think very well said. If you're not part of the dialogue, if you don't have a seat at the table, how will you make the decisions? How will you be a part of the decision that's made? Actually, makes sense. And so, coming, of course, to the elephant in the room, everybody's always talking about the successful startups that eventually, see the turn of the century. So, how did you identify the need of a platform such as the Baby Chakra, and what challenges did you face while scaling it up? I will ask the second part of the question after you answer this.
See, I think, I was saying this in another conversation just earlier this week. A lot of entrepreneurship books and, conversations will tell you, as an entrepreneur, you're solving a problem for yourself, but you're not really, right? I think, yes, the most successful entrepreneurs may have started with the problems that they're trying to solve for themselves, but eventually it becomes a problem that they're trying to solve for a very, very large segment of people, right, that they connect with, because and they connect mission wise, they connect vision wise with, because the seed of the idea was for themselves, but they found enough of a large cohort that face the same problem. So I think with what happened with me and Baby Chakra was that I was not a mother when I started Baby Chakra, but when I looked around, I saw three big insights and big shifts happening, and that sort of stayed with me. One was that in the way women learn is from each other. The way people learn is from each other, right? So communities are clearly where people learn, but communities largely existed offline. So I think the question was, is there a possibility to bring a very large digital community online where mothers could come online and learn from each other? I think the second piece I took away was that, when healthcare and sort of impact works, right? When people actually impact behavior change is when they understand you very well, and they personalize their advice to you, right? So again, I think the insight from that was, how do you personalize using the power of technology, using the power of digital, the information that someone is getting, and give it to them at relevant points in time in a way that is hyper personalized to their needs and their context and their localities, right? And I think the third sort of insight I took away was that there is a big demographic shift happening in India, right? Which is we're moving away from being a land of joint families to being a land of nuclear families. So people are lonely, people are living in units where they're suddenly relying on the internet for care, and there is no digital platform that exists. So it was essentially these three insights that prompted me to build out Baby Chakra. Now, while building it out, I think what ended up happening was that some of my sisters struggled through a similar journey of being alone as a mother, in a nuclear family setting, and looking for qualified advice and looking for the right support groups. And I think that spurred me on to further action. But I think with entrepreneurship, you start with a certain set of insights that feel like something is big, something is
Right.
impacting hundreds of millions of people here, and therefore, how can you go out and solve for it?
I think yes, agreed. And on these lines, also on the theme of the webinar that we have today, building robust models. I would like to ask, how do you take that jump from an execution, from having an inception of an idea to actually going ahead and executing it? The kind of challenges and problems do you face when you actually decide that this is where I need to begin the execution?
Again, I think it goes back to the first point I'd made about problem solving. So, you're trying to get from point A to point Z, right? Which is your goal, mission statement, right? So we started off, I remember the first day of Baby Chakra, we said, okay, what is our mission? And our mission at that point in time was to reach 15 million mothers and to impact their lives for the better, right? Which basically meant
Right.
them getting the right care, the right support, and the right advice at the right time for them to have the best health and pregnancy outcomes, right? So that was the starting point. So then we broke it up into component pieces and basically made an operating plan to say, okay, now what does care mean? Right. So care we realize means things that around, giving them daily sort of tips on pregnancy, right? On how to manage a pregnancy,
Right.
what foods to eat, what multivitamins to take, right? How many doctor visits are needed, right? What does this report mean versus that report, right? Care also means getting the right doctor ecosystem involved in your care journey, helping you make the best choices on care protocols. So it means a bunch of things, right? So I think that's what you do as an entrepreneur. You basically say, okay, this is where I want to ideally get to, and you work
Yeah.
backwards. You start making you start making, like, you start saying, okay, if I solve for, if there are 10 pieces that will get me to my goal, can I take two, three, four of these pieces and really solve for it with my team based on my resource constraints, or based on, like, what is my strength and what is my mode to solve for here, and work towards it. Now, this is the right way, or the best way, perhaps. It's never the way it all happens and comes together. Of course, the journey of entrepreneurship is meandering, and lots of ups and downs. But I think the second piece to it, therefore, is that you just need to work with your team and just be very, very resilient and very focused on your overall, you know game plan, your overall outcomes that you're working towards. Because when you get diverted, or when you get distracted, or when things don't go as per plan, right? And, like, let's say you work on one particular problem statement or one particular project that fails, right? And you get disheartened. I think the biggest part of entrepreneurship, more than anything operational, etc., is the mental game you play, right? So you have to bounce back and get back in the game. So I think these are the two pieces that you work on as an entrepreneur, right? At the highest level, right? You work with
Right.
clarity to the overall outcome, and number two, you're sort of the chief energy officer of your team, and you have to keep on getting yourself and the team back on track.
Right. I think we are joined by a few startups, and I think we already have questions coming in. Also, on the basis of the questions that the answers that you are saying. So I request everybody watching this live to please comment on any platform that you're watching us on, whether Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and we'll take the questions ahead with Naiyya. So I see one question here that what do you think are some core values that startups need to prioritize in their pursuit of building profitable startups?
So, there are, I would say it's a great question. First of all, I think there are three core values that are really important, right? One is that profitability is not something you can work on overnight. It is something that you have to have in the fundamentals of your business. I was talking to a fellow founder earlier today, where we were discussing the pathway to profitability, and I think it went back to even looking at the COGS to MRP ratio. It was a D2C startup, right? And basically saying that even if you were to scale, even with volumes in this particular model, right, how would we be profitable? Because the COGS MRP ratios don't make sense when you factor in marketing, distribution, logistics, commissions, etc. Right? So I think it's at the core. When you're thinking about building something profitable, it's at the core of what you're building, and everything kind of circles around being profitable at the unit economic level, because then at scale it is inherently profitable, right? And you can dial on profitability. Number two, it is a culture, right? So it's not just an economic model, it's actually a culture, right? Where there's a culture of frugality, a culture of watching out for every rupee, but also making those long term strategic bets, keeping in mind that some of these may not be immediately profitable, but it's something that gives us an added advantage or a moat or a right to win in future. But it's a culture, right? Where everybody's focused on ensuring that you stretch every rupee the long way, right? So, and I think with that culture is the third piece, which is an over indexation on communication. See, when you're working on building a profitable company, right, you have a bunch of stakeholders you're constantly in communication with. One is, of course, your board or investors. Number two is, of course, your teams, right? Your every team member needs to focus on their particular vertical, adding to that overall profitability mission, right? And number three is your vendors, right? Where you're coming back to them, you're renegotiating, or you're negotiating contracts, you're negotiating, payables, etc. You're negotiating inventory rates, etc. Right? So you're basically working with every stakeholder and communicating, in fact, over communicating, and really negotiating with them and working with them to make yourself profitable. So I think these are the three things that I would say are the principles of profitability at the heart of it.
Actually, we also have a follow-up question to this in the chat that because you mentioned your co-founder, somebody's asking what's the best route to finding the right co-founder? I think that's a question which I find really interesting.
So it's I think I got lucky actually. So while I was building Baby Chakra, I was a single founder. I didn't have a co-founder, right? And at the towards the middle of COVID, we had two paths before us, right? One was to continue, raising, and we had a term sheet, and continue going our own way on Baby Chakra and building it out. And I would continue being, the founder of Baby Chakra. And the second was my conversation with Darpan, who's the founder of My Glamm. And I think in my conversation with him, it lasted, I think, 5, 6 hours, right? In the heart of COVID, both of us sitting with masks and facing each other. We had a very strong sort of meeting of minds where, both of us were very excited about the possibility of seeing content to commerce, communities to commerce really play out, and to see what could potentially be the largest digital first FMCG conglomerate from out of India to go global. Right. So I think that's where we shared a vision. In fact, this conversation and this decision is also captured in a Harvard Business School case. Right. So it's not always easy to find the right co founders, but I think so it's a bit of serendipity and a lot of conversation. I think the third piece to it is obviously introductions from people who know you best, because they kind of know what kind of a person you are, what kind of value systems you have, what kind of a mission you're on with your venture. And while the conversation, I think, with Darpan was Darpan reached out to me first, but I know that he was also introduced to me or socialized to me by our common investors, right? So I think the introduction piece is super critical as well.
Noted. I think we'll just take one more question. We have lots of questions coming in. So I think I'll just pick this one that I find really interesting. Hi, Naiyya. It is important to see where the tide is going and try ride it or not. Should we try to solve a problem which might not look too big right now, basically? Should be given to what's actually looking at the bigger picture, or should we even solve? I think what the person is asking, should we even solve problems that may not look that big right now?
I mean, it's a very subjective answer. It all depends on the problem. It all depends on you, right? There has to be a founder market fit also. Sometimes you could find a lot of success in a very, very niche market. Sometimes it takes 10 years to become, what seems like an overnight success. Look at ChatGPT, right? They've been working at 8, 10 years on this already, right? And now today is when we all know about it. It's become a household name.
Right.
So I think it's a very subjective answer. I think there are two things you should do as a founder, or I would, if I were to jam with you, I'd probably suggest. One is see if you are the right person to solve this problem and why. Right? Is it something that you can spend the next 8, 10 years of your life solving? Is that something that drives you, inspires you, you're passionate about, and you have a unique insight on? And number two, if that market is niche, is it deep? That means, can you derive enough value from it to be at scale? Right? So either you're broad and it's somewhat shallow,
Right.
but because it's broad, the volumes kick in and you build something of value. Or if it's niche, it's deep, and with your unique insight, you can really derive the most value out of that market and build something of great value.
And just one last question for sure. Somebody is asking, what is the research that went behind a solution like the baby chakra? Because the model is so unique and it was so ahead of its time.
A lot of
So the kind of
conversations.
research that went behind it.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of conversations went into it, right? So I think, going back, I mean, at some level, baby chakra today seems like a large problem to solve. When I was starting it off, right, this whole sort of parenting tech or femtech, etc., was nothing. Like there was no startups around, there was no venture around it, even globally, right? But I
Right.
think it went with,
Exactly.
it actually went back to what I had said earlier, which was one, I had worked earlier in maternal and child health, I'd worked in public health. I realized there was a large problem. So I had perhaps a bit of that unique insight from the vantage of having worked in the sector before, right? So that probably helped in me understanding the dynamics of the space a little bit more than maybe a fellow founder would have. Um, and I think the second piece to it was a bunch of conversations with potential customers. And, the whole solution, the whole stack of Baby Chakra was actually co created with mothers and doctors. Right. So we recently launched our D2C products, which were co created by mothers and doctors as well, and with them as well. But even our product, like our digital product, our app, our wireframing, what do you want to see on it when you come onto it daily? What kind of conversations do you want to be part of? Who do you want to follow? What matters most to you? Why? At what time? All of this, right? The entire product was actually created and co-created with mothers and doctors, and that required us to have in the very beginning about 600 conversations, 600 lot of long
Wow.
conversations. And then, of course, that was an ongoing process where the entire team of Baby Chakra and me including would actually dedicate 2-3 hours every week to constantly be in touch and meet our stakeholders, basically mothers and doctors.
Amazing. And I don't think that you're just inspiring startups in this sector, but in fact, like we're also joined by startups and, budding entrepreneurs from different sectors. So I think thank you so much, Naiyya, for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you, to hear you speak. And like I said, personally, also, I think it's amazing to have this conversation with you. Like, we're also, our applications for the National Startup Awards are live right now. So it's great to have entrepreneurs like you to come and inspire the younger generation to not just apply for these awards, but also get into entrepreneurship. I would like to just thank you again. And I would request the NSA video to be played now, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So it's my pleasure to now announce that we have with us visionary entrepreneurs who've led their startups to win the National Startup Awards in the previous year. Mr. Akshay Dixit is the co-founder and director at Vestago Innovations, which is an agri-tech startup that's revolutionizing the rural agrarian landscape through software solutions. With a strong background in computer engineering and over 3+ years of experience in social innovation, Akshay has dedicated his careers to helping farmer producer organizations and smallholder farmers optimize their operations and increase profits. As a former vice president HR for the Nasik chapter of ASEC, the world's largest youth run organization, he is also a skilled communicator with passion for empowering communities. Prior to this, he's worked as the operations head for Preleaf Technologies, a startup working on early detection of high risk pregnancies in India. Under the guidance of Mr. Akshay, Westa Togo Innovations has bagged the National Startup Award 2021 for agriculture sector under the post-harvest category. We also have with us Mr. Yashwant Suthar, founder at Sanilogy and Lootle, a dot box conception private limited startup venture recognized by Startup India as well. He's worked at Pyrotech Electronics, Force Motors, and VE Commercial Vehicles Limited as a deputy manager. He is a proud social entrepreneur and public sanitation visionary with a passion for changing public toilets for the better. With his expertise and experience, he's become a respected leader in the field of public sanitation and hygiene. His startup has also been awarded as the Best Startup Initiative, and he's also winner of the National Startup Award 2022. Welcome on the panel, both of you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Radhika.
The first question I think I'll shoot at Mr. Yashwant. So, can you share some insights into the challenges and opportunities you faced while building a startup, especially in a niche sector such as the public sanitation and hygiene? And how did you overcome these challenges?
Thank you, Radhika. So, challenges was really great for us. First of all, actually, I came in this public sanitation business is just personal reason. My wife didn't get a great public toilet, that's why I came here. So, reason behind the public toilet work is like just personal reason. And the first
Right.
challenge was investors. It's a taboo sector. We are not a fashionable business, like not IoT, AI, tech. And when you think about the public toilet, even your nose doesn't like it. So it's completely outdated and isolated sector, but same time we had a lot of privilege in that. We do not have a lot of competitions, so we
Right.
have at like a green field for us sometimes. So like whatever idea you have, you can throw it and you can check it out, or you can do it in that way. Obviously, first was like when you are building a startup, you had that time of fashion in 2016 funding and a lot of the going on that. So we were looking for funding, but nobody was interested to invest in the public toilet. So we thought about that. Okay, why don't we invest? And we build that kind of the public sanitation model, which can be profitable for us and government also. So we started in that idea. Okay, we will build that kind of the public sanitation model, which should be the self-sustainable as well as the completely scalable model. And we have started in that way.
The reason could be personal, but for sure is very noble, sir. Moving on to Mr. Akshay, can you tell us the role of technology? I know it's a pivot, but since we have startups from all walks of life watching us as well, so can you tell us the role of technology in improving the efficiency of agriculture operations and increasing profits for very smallholder farmers? And how has your startup contributed to this cause for everybody watching?
Sure, Radhika. So I'll maybe bring an urban context to this. So basically, you must have seen our parents used to apply for passports and the trouble that they used to go through. So it's a known fact that a passport, if you apply, you have to forward the application for at least 35 to 40 days. And only then you'll get the application done. And then you'll have to go to multiple, you can say you'll have to go to multiple offices, multiple appointments, and then
Right.
you'll get passport. Yeah.
Of
However,
course.
however, what happens is if you see the benefit of technology, what happened was that time it was said that Tatkal, if at all you want to get your passport on an urgent basis, you apply for Tatkal and you get it in 7 days. But now through technology, even the normal passport also comes within 7 days. That is within the Tatkal period.
Right.
That is the speed at which things start happening. So it's, you can see the benefit of technology. How it happens is instead of you can say sequential approach, it starts going into a concrete approach. So 4 or 5 things can happen parallelly, and it's also a lot of automation that takes in, particularly in agriculture and the area that we were operating in. It's a very strange fact as to uh, if at all, I decide to order paneer butter masala from any website or you can say any particular hotel, I have all the options. I can go to Swiggy, Zomato, whatnot, multiple websites, and जहाँ पे I save 100
Right.
rupees, I say यार party करूँगा 100 रुपए बच गए. But imagine
Right.
something for farmer as well. So can he not have a choice to select which market that he wants to go to, as to which is giving him better profits and better market realization? And that is what is this very simple tech that we implemented, a very seemingly easy solution that we feel ki urban made very natural, but however it was missing in the we can say rural context. So when we introduced this, we immediately found a lot of acceptance, because immediately it was for a farmer like he was only connected to one market, now he's connected to 5 to 6 markets immediately, so now he can make a better decisions. At the same
Right.
time, what I also feel as a role of technology is to also bridge the gaps between the stakeholders
Right.
in the ecosystem itself. So, if you were to talk about the way we are talking today, I'm sitting in Nasik, the gentleman there is sitting in another city, you're sitting maybe in another city, and all of our, you can say, listeners are sitting in various cities, but there is some bridge which is connecting all of us and making this possible. So this technology also proved to act as a bridge in the agri ecosystem, wherein the farmers could better reach out to the market, the markets could better reach out to the farmers. We were also able to create a, you can say, a pool of FPOs who had access to all these farmers. So that is the benefit, you can say, that technology immediately brought in the ecosystem, and hence you can say increasing the and as you rightly mentioned in the introduction, of optimizing the complete agri value chain. So these are some benefits that we were able to bring through this ecosystem.
Well, I think the example in the beginning really summed it, the importance of technology and how it's also bridging the gaps. Very rightly said. Mr. Yashwant, I have a question for you. So, as a founder, it's a little different, but how do you identify potential investors that align with your startup's missions and beliefs and ideas? Can you share any strategies for building and budding startups with these investors and securing funding with them?
So for the investors, actually, first of all, you should have the clear vision regarding your concept and your product and thing, what you want to build, first of all. Second thing is that
Right.
you are looking for the investor, so you need to have nowadays. if after almost we are talking in 2023, not in 2014 when startup era has started. Like now, investors are looking robust model, like their complete persona has changed, their priority has changed for the bigger market. First of all, how much market size, what is your market size? Second, your product, is product is scalable or not? And third is the team. If you have a three answer in your hand, product, market, and team, then you can do it. And for the next thing is that you need to identify your kind of the investors, like which kind of the investor invest in your ideas, your sectors. Like if we are in the social impact sector, where we
Right.
are not kind of AI at most of the other sectors kind of the business. So need to figure it out the social impact investor. So we are approaching the only those investors who invest in the either sanitation, either social impact, or might be who want to invest in the those startup in a niche area, something different from the others also. So you need to figure it out. It's not like that. We did that mistake in earlier in 2016. Just figure out the almost 200 investor on the Startup India website and throw it the mail to everyone. It won't work, first of all.
Right.
But you can
Right.
learn by day. It's not like everyone is learned and started and they are started played great. No, we are learning day by day, evolving day by day. Even your business model also same time. What we were in
Right.
2016, today we are completely different, because what we learned from last 7 years, it's day by day. So same for your investors also. You need to build a market and figure out the market, then great product which can be scalable, and you need to have a great team for you. Then go for the investor, and right investor is like a figure out the your kind of the investor. That's a strategy. It's simple. It's a very simple strategy, and you go and ask to them. And time to and investor is not like on the fingertips. You have to follow up a lot. You
Right.
need to run behind of them and then send to the mail, say when can you I meet you, and then he will tell you next week, then next week, and next week. So it's like the kind of the sale kind of the thing. You need to sell your idea to someone. So just try to follow. And second thing I want to tell you to everyone, it's not about the funding. First of all, startup and funding is not the same. You if you can the build a startup on the we are the bootstrap till now. From last time we are working the bootstrap model, then we are happy about that. If you are looking for the funding, you need to know about the what kind of the fund amount you are looking at, what runway you are getting for that, and what will you build on that funding. If you have these kind of the answer and you are funding ready, then you should go for the investor. Just because of the name of funding, okay, I'll raise the fund and then I'll burn the money and again raise the fund and then burn the money. That's the cycle. And when you will not have a
Right.
fund, what will happen? You need to fire the people. You will stop your model. So rather than going for the funding, just first build your robust business model. Then if you think you require the money, then go for funding. Otherwise, leave it out.
So I think the point you made about having a very targeted approach, whether it is to find investors or whether it is to even answer the question if you need funding, is basically something we all need to take away from this. Coming back to you, Akshay, I have a question. Is it not better to have, or is it better to have a niche rather than going for multiple hits? How do you decide the next product or next service that you want to work for? Do you look out in the market, or do you internally discuss that this is something that people might be missing on, or do you actually go and interact with people and realize the problem?
Sure. Radhika, before this, I'll just like to answer that first question as well. So for me, because
Sure, please.
one more important thing which I also, and I think pretty much he has covered everything, but one important thing which I also feel is what apart from money does that investor bring to your table is also something that you need to answer as a founder.
Right.
Because what sometimes happens is money is everywhere. To be honest, there is no shortage of money, to be honest, in the startup ecosystem. However, what
Mm.
is lacking is the intent with which that money is coming. So, if at all you're able to relate, so as in his case, he was talking about, is that person really passionate about solving the sanitation problem at the first place? Because if he's
Mm.
not, it's as good as just writing a check and giving it for just for the namesake. So we also have to
Right.
ensure that if that money is coming, how aligned is he with my vision? Because if he's aligned with my vision, he will not even think twice before giving you the check. That is for sure. That is for granted. And even the conversion time will be very quick, because then he'll really understand. He'll also like to work with you. So that is one thing which I also feel is all the founders should definitely think about, is that if they're looking for funding, if they're looking for investors, though they should also shortlist the investor not only in terms of what is the ticket size they are planning to raise, but also with respect to what is the other things that investor brings to the table apart from just the money. It can be market connects, it can be mentorship, it can be, let's say, some passion, joint passion. Because as the one of the speaker just before me was also saying that she met her founder through an investor. I'm sure that investor was very
Right.
passionate about her ideas, and hence this is the reason he connected him. You can say these both people. So that is the
Right.
advantage of having a investor who, you can say, trusts in your idea. Now, coming back to the question that you asked me, I believe going into niche still makes a lot of sense. But again, this is again very subjective. Uh, in our case, in particular, if I were to give my example, the only problem that we wanted to solve was how can we make farming more profitable, primarily with a key intention of how can we give better market accesses to the farmers. Now, this ecosystem is such is that it revolves around multiple things. A farmer cannot have better market linkages, or you can say, if I were the vision that we had was to increase the income of the farmer, we cannot increase the income of the farmer if we do not have better market linkages. Hence, we build a product around that. At the same time, he cannot even if we give him better market linkages, it is extremely difficult for him to sustain if we are not able to give him tools and means to reduce his cost as well. The cost of production also has to go down. Now, even if you're increasing the market product, you can say realization, you also have to reduce the cost of production. Only then you can say you're making the farming profitable for him. And hence, we developed one more model to the same system wherein we also allowed them pay-per-use logistics services. Currently, we are the only startup in the country which offers pay-per-use logistics services to the farmers in the you can say rural economy. So that is one more thing that we
Right.
built. While we were building all these things, what we also noticed is again we are solving the problem for the farmer. We have solved giving him market access, we are giving him you can say reduced cost of production. But now majority of the farmers are selling it to either APMC market or FPOs. Now these FPOs are any and not using technology whatsoever, so there are a lot of inefficiencies in their operations, so that you can say increases a lot of cost for them. So we developed a product around that. However, the niche was same as to making farming profitable, or you can say making the smallholder farmer feeling empowered. And that is the niche that we, and around that we started building an ecosystem of products which we felt that everything is aligning to that. And while going forward, as the question that you asked, how the approach should be, the approach should be
Right.
to what is the root cause, and if I'm building anything, is that
Mm.
anything solving that root cause, is it impacting it in the positive way? And if it is impacting in the positive way, you definitely go for it. So this is my take again, but again, this can also be hugely subjective depending on the sector that you're working in. So in areas wherein there are no multiple dynamic factors like us, people might choose to have a single product and work on that, and people have succeeded in that. However, in our case in particular, we have noticed that we have to build an ecosystem of product around the main niche. Only then we can find,
Right.
you can say, problems actually getting solved.
That actually makes sense. The last point, especially that you said. And I think we have a lot of startups who've joined us, and they have, I think, questions are coming in already. So we have a question which says that the market has become very unstable, especially after COVID-19 crisis, impacting the entire ecosystem and not just startups. So what are the challenges faced by startups like yours during economic downfalls, and how can you basically make sure that the organizations stay adaptable, resilient, and recession proof? So, anybody would like to take up the question?
I'll take a question. Uh, First,
Sure.
because we after the COVID for us, we are in a retail kind of this startup. We do have a different centers, smart toilet in everywhere. So after COVID, we were actually had a lot of loss in business because due to COVID, travel and tourism industry was completely shut down. And but in meanwhile, we have learned the thing we need to upgrade our model. Matlab, whenever every problem come to you, it should be matlab, you should solve in the profitable way. Every problem has a
Right.
two phase. Either you just face it and you can sort it out in the uh, we'll solve it and we'll figure it out. Or second is that no, we will stop it here. We had a both option in that way. So we what we did it earlier, we were the smart toilet cafe model where we had a 50% toilet and 50% cafeteria. After that we have we learned almost we got a time for almost 8 to 9 months to sit at home and think about that what we are doing and what we can do in future. So that problem gives the opportunity to us to convert and upgrade our model in the first service. We have converted that concept smart toilet in a take a break. Still we are there providing the 50% toilet. Now take a break, we are recharge, refresh and refuel. Recharge your EV vehicle, we adopt the EV in our concept. Because when you are doing the EV charging, almost you will have a 30
Right.
minutes. What will you do in
Mm.
that time? Obviously, you need a washroom for that time, or you need to take a break for the tea. So we just adopt the EV charging with us, and then we change our market area. In India, almost 29 billion people annually traveled. It's a bigger number, and they don't have any option for the quality toilet and premium toilets for that. So we adopt we clarified our TG market, okay, where we are going to serve it now. And third thing is that, okay, we have changed the upgrade in our model, some different kind of the size and model, and after the COVID we came with the different model. So the economic
Mm.
slowdown, and this is a part of the business. It's you will not be in always in a high tide. Sometime will be the high
Mm.
tide, sometime it will be the low tide. So whenever you're in a low tide, you need to rethink about it, reinvent your business model. You cannot do that. Okay, okay, I have invented the business once in a time, and I'll leave for the whole time, and I'll not just sit and watch the movie and nothing is that. You need to
Mm.
reinvent every time. Every time you will figure out the slowdown. Every time you need to figure out your model, because if you will not do, your competitor will do. He will come with a different model,
Absolutely.
and people will go to him.
Right.
So you need to figure
Right.
out how to retain your customer. Sometime market will slow down. Sometime competitor will come with the new idea. Sometime might be some third party like COVID came in the picture. So you need to figure it out, and you need to. The best part of the solution is that rethink, reinvent. Always try to upgrade and innovate in your model. If demand or not, but just try, try, try.
Absolutely. We have one more question. I think that's for Akshay. How do you tackle competition, especially when your product model is unique and first of its kind?
So in this case, in fact, to be honest, it's a very big market. In fact, we would
Right.
invite competition to work with us. And I'll tell you why. Because collaboration is the way forward and not competition. Because we know,
Wow.
if I were to talk about the agri economy, almost 60% of the 140 crore population is dependent on agriculture. That is the market size. And I know my team, like even if Brahma comes down on the earth, even then I cannot solve the problem for all the farmers. So I know I need collaborators in this ecosystem who would like to work with me, and this is the reason we are always open to collaboration. In fact, we have, you can say, reached out to, like, it would be very insane to say, but we have reached out to our competitors saying that we would like to collaborate with you, or we would like you to collaborate with us. Let's work on it jointly. And we have got, in some places we did not get a response, but in some places we got a very good response saying that let's do it
Right.
jointly, because that is the benefit. What also happens, it's a lot of co-learning. And we must understand, competition is not an enemy, to be honest. It's just another
Right.
person trying to solve it with the same passion that you are doing it, right? So if we join hands, it's like two forces coming together, right? And you double the pace of going ahead then. So in fact, we have, you can say, invited our competitions to work with us, and in fact given access to a few customers. So in fact, there have been cases when in the same customer, we have given two apps, one of our competitor and one of us. It also incites a very healthy competition. Why? Because it also helps you to you can say, as he was also mentioning, the speaker was also mentioning, recreate and re-innovate as to what are the other things which are
Right.
doing, which I can learn and incorporate in my thing as well. So we'll be having a press release very soon wherein we have become the first, you can say, startup in the country to implement quantum computing in agriculture. This has been done with a collaboration only, through TCS research and innovation team. So having a touch with your competition, also incites a very positive competition in yourself as to, yeah, I have to up the game now. These guys are catching up, I have to collaborate, or you can say I have to go a notch above. So that is how I look at it. In fact, I believe it's a huge market. We should not think competition, we should think collaboration, because everyone is an expert in their field. If we join hands, we can cover farther distances.
Right.
Yeah.
That actually was a very, very unique way of answering the question. I've never seen this approach as well. It was very inspiring. But also, since both of you are NSA winners and we have lots of aspirants watching us today, so you serve as an inspirational figure for many startups. And how have things changed for you, for your startup post winning the award? And how do you think, honestly, the platform Startup India or National Startup Awards initiative in general has helped you or your business?
So actually, for us, it's a kind of a great validation. My customer is the government. Sometimes we are working with the government, and when we say that we are the most of the time, in a startup every day, yeah, once in a week we get a mail from the anywhere we are providing this award and this is the cost for registration
Right.
fees. Most of the time we get this kind of the mail in the market. But the Startup India award is the first of all that whenever we go the any commissioner, any municipal commissioner, collector to work with them, and when we say that we are the NSA winner, so it's a kind of the privilege for us because he knows the government of India is backing this startup. They have recognized that. That's mean they have some kind of the validation. So by default,
Right.
you have a privilege in that way. Okay, you are working with the government and you already got awarded by recognized by the government of India. So we have kind of the some easy way to penetrate in the government municipal corporations and these kind of. Second thing, like Startup India platform is a great for us also because we got a lot of after the that the 1 year hand holding process of Startup India after getting the award from the NSA. So that in a hand holding process, we have incorporated with a lot of the people and we create our network and we actually we are getting business from them also. So it's a hand holding process was great for the complete whole 1 year. The whole winners and we went to the Viva Tech Paris event also in that way. So that was also again great to how to collaborate with the Europe startups and how people they are doing that. Actually, in that way, we got a great platform, the exposure with the to learn from them what kind of the European startup doing in the same business also. So for
Right.
me, is a, like a first kind of the for getting a great business. Now we are very easy to work with the government. And second thing is that we get a lot of great exposure in that European market and as well as in Indian market also.
Thank you so much. Akshay, would you like to take it up
Yeah,
as well?
I think pretty much he has covered all the points. Maybe I'll take one step back and talk about how the journey has also helped. So basically, application process was also very full of scrutinies. So in fact, we went through 3 to 4 rounds, if I'm not wrong, of multiple juries, and every time we were asked very you can say chubne wale questions hote hain, that is something they ask, and it really like as a founder you feel कि अरे यार ऐसे कैसे पूछ लिया इसने. So and then you go back and when you think about it, you feel that कि नहीं, he was right, and I think we need to work upon that idea. So these jury members who were part of the, you can say they were very strict at the same time, very pinpointed in their approach. Ki this is something which is missing. This, and they were very scrutinizing every point very critically. So this also helped us to revise our business models as well, and also rethink: are we doing it the right way? So it is more like the journey also helped us a lot. At the same time, as he already talked about government connects, we immediately got you can say recognized by the government. So we do not deal directly with the government, but we have recently started a B2G model as well, wherein we approach agri enabling agencies like SFAC, NABARD, etc., to, you can say, and
Right.
they act as our customer. So earlier they used to never entertain us, but now that we are NSA winners, and I think they have a list of all the NSA, all the organizations have an NSA winners list. So as soon as they see our name is there, we are, you can say, at least entertained कि हाँ आपको चाय बुलाने तो पिलाने के लिए तो भी लेके जाएंगे. So that is the advantage that we got, and eventually we started converting a lot of the deals there. So that is also the advantage that we got. But the biggest takeaway for me from the award was not the cash prize and not, you can say, the other things that we got, but biggest of all, the way the jury members, you can say, enabled us to rethink on our approaches and maybe better ideate and, you can say, frame our business models. That is something that also was very critical for us. Otherwise it's all good, right? So as a founder we always feel that it's everything is very good, but when some of these tough questions start coming to you, you really think about, yeah, I'm not
Yes.
god, I have to work on a lot of things.
Right. I think we are going to quote you on this. How this process has also helped you challenge your own self. That was, I think, a great way of looking at it. And just to sum it up, the last question is what piece of advice do you have for the NSA finalist or aspirants that want to apply this year that are applying? In fact, we have our applications open till 30th May. So, any word of advice or caution do you have for them? Each of you. This question is open to both of you.
I think the Akshay was right in that way. So, matlab someone, whenever someone asks a question, either you answer it or either you rethink about it. First of all, or as a being
Right.
an NSA, everyone should apply it. Who is eligible for that? Reason behind of that, at least you will figure it out where I am right now, what
Right.
level I have achieved in my business and that. So at least the aspirants who is eligible for that, they should apply it first of all, and they should learn from that process. Either you are getting award or not, that's the thing. Because what people are asking for your business, the questionnaire itself will tell you that what kind of the question will ask for your business. Okay, they will ask for the revenue, they will ask for the LTV, or whatever the question they will ask, social impact or market vision, go to strategy. At least you will learn that. Most of the time, when someone will ask what is the GTM, go to market strategy, what is your
Right.
LTV. So it might be someone who will not know about the LTV, he will go and figure out, okay, that's LTV, and he ARPU, and then he will
Right.
get to know. So at least he will learn about some jargons of the his business same time,
Right.
and he will
Yeah.
actually same when you giving the answer for your business. So you will think about
Mm.
that. Okay, what is the social impact of my business? What is the economic impact of my business? What is the cultural
Right.
impact of my business? What is the environmental impact of my business? So he need to think about his business in this different perspective. Okay, my business can create an environment impact. My business can create a social impact, economic, cultural. These kind of answer will think about this, and same time you can click the some idea about your business also. I never thought about it in that cultural way, but that's the
Yeah.
idea you can get in that while filling the form also.
Agreed. I think
Wonderful.
Yashwant has covered almost all part of it. I think I do not have anything additional to add on. But one thing is, this is a great platform for you to particularly, you can say, get that access to, you can say, the ecosystem. So basically, Startup India is connected, and the biggest advantage that gets is the Radhika mentioned about, you can say, the handholding support for 1 year. And that is not just for winners, that is also for finalists, right? And at the same time, even if you're not a finalist, you can anyhow, you can say, ask for it, right? So nobody's going to deny you, okay, I won't help you. So biggest of all, one more advantage that we also got was the community. So basically, for me also in particular, one of the major learning is also about the peers that we have got connected to. So unfortunately, I am a winner of 2021, so I did not go for physical. You can say collection of awards, but the online
Mm.
community, the way we connected is very strong. But now I think I'm sure it would be happening offline, so you should definitely go. So the type of you can say discussions. So like imagine 50 odd minds coming, very very brilliant minds working on completely different ideas, coming all together in a single roof. Imagine the type of communications that you'll be having. It is more than any B
Right.
school. It is more. It's better than any B school whatsoever. So that is also the peer connects that you get also helps you a lot of development, and also the learnings happen that way. A lot of cross learning happens. Oh, by the way, you did that. Let me try this in my startup as well. So that is also something which
Right.
you can say insight. So that is one thing which I've also taken as a learning.
That's amazing. I think I've, in fact, never even thought about this way. Like, when especially you're answering, how it has forced you to rethink your own model. Uh, Amazing. When I talk about the benefits of NSA, I think this is one addition that I'm definitely going to add as another pillar, that it will make you relearn, unlearn, and maybe rethink your business model as well, and not just focus on the shortcomings, but how can you, in fact, actually learn more and compete better and collaborate better, to quote you, Akshay. But thank you so much, both of you. I really hope that the aspiring entrepreneurs watching us today are, intrigued and inspired to apply for the National Startup Awards. You still have time, everybody watching. The application will not take you more than 3 to 4 days to finish. So please take a moment, absorb this interview, log on to www.startupindia.gov.in. You have testimonials right in front of you. We don't even need to share their videos, they're live with us. We've had a very fruitful conversations. We also have the previous two webinars live on our handles if you want to go and watch them as well. But thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thank you, Akshay. Thank you, Yashwant. It's always a delight to host you. Thanks.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Radhika.
Radhika. Thank you. Thanks,
Good
everyone.
night.